is what I learned from coaching from many years is that something's popping up on my screen. Sorry. What I've learned from coaching of many years is that everyone's hurting from something, and deep down everybody wants something that they are too scared to say they want. And I would love to think that when you come to Bling, you can heal that part of you that needs to be healed, and we will give you the courage, and you will deep down find your bravery so that you can move forward and you can actually go after what you want, because often what you have to give to the world is what the world really needs. So that's pretty much what Bling is all about and what we do.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. I played it. I mean, I heard about it last year, never had the opportunity to play it because then, you had to go into a party, and it was always done in Canberra. But this time I played it with one of her angels called Michelle.
Yep.
It was fun. It was unexpected. I mean, they tell you what it is about, but nothing beats experiencing it. So I absolutely am a huge fan.
Thank you.
We're going to put, I think Angie is going to have a YouTube thing set up, isn't it?
Yeah, what we're going to do is, with all the Bling Angels, we're actually going to start running workshops. I'm going to start running workshops on a Wednesday from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, which you can register for because we can only take 20 people online. And the Bling Angels will come along and they will be able to play with you one-on-one in breakout rooms so that you can bring your greatest challenge, or you can bring a question that you would love answered, and they will be able to help guide you through the cards so that you can find your answer that you're looking for.
Yeah. So I'll get Angie to drop the link after this video in the comments.
Yep. Because and we're going to ask just Michelle to do that, or Beck. Beck McFarlane or Michelle will be able to help you with that because they both help with the links.
Yeah, because I've said this a few times to my guests, and then they start typing in the chat here. I said, no, not in the chat here, because I'm not transferring it for you. Please put it in the comments after the video.
Absolutely. No, yeah, one of the
good. So we're going to come right back into the topic at hand. We often hear about domestic violence, and it's usually through the voice of a spouse. Okay, I haven't actually heard it about, from children. I've seen it. I used to work with teenagers, and quite a few of them come from in Singapore, and they come from domestic violence home, and they are the victims of it. And that's really, really sad. I mean, I don't get it, but hey, we're not meant to understand everything, which is why we're here having conversations like that, so that we can help people better understand why people do what they do. So this is unscripted because we'd like to just jump in and explore what comes out. So tell us, and Angie hasn't spoken about this openly before. So
yeah, not because of any reason, just because no one's ever asked me to. It's not, it's something that is, it's not nice. And I'm a huge, as you know, that when you buy one of the Find Your Bling games, currently I'm offering a Find Your Bling game going to a domestic violence centre. I've always been very passionate about supporting them. But yeah, it triggers up a lot of emotions. And actually, Karen, it's quite interesting, even as you started talking about this, my body's going all hot and I'm like, oh, geez, it just takes you back to those points that were just so sad.
Yeah.
Because everyone was so troubled.
Correct. So let's start from the beginning. How old were you? What was happening? So tell us.
Well, I was very young when domestic violence started in my household, and I think when emotions are raised, it's amazing what can unfold in a very unkind way, and everyone has a reason for doing what they do.
Yeah.
Now, it is always publicised that people that act, that I suppose men that take violence out on women, and there are women that take violence out on men too. So we don't want to I think that happens a lot more than what we think about, and it's not spoken about.
That's right.
I don't know a lot about that, but I do know a little bit about men that take violence out on women, and we know that it's a learnt behaviour. Now, I don't think it is for everybody, but I think for most people it is. So as much as I feared for my mother and my brother in those times, I mean, one of the worst times I ever saw was when I saw my brother's head put through a wall just because he took a strawberry. And it was absolutely horrendous. And I've never forgotten that. And I don't think I've actually ever really gotten over it. It was just terrible. And I think the sadness that unfolds from children that come from domestic violence is my brother and I haven't been in contact for many years, for like probably 30 years, because there's just so many layers of pain. There's so many layers of pain of, you know, I couldn't help you. I actually left home very early because of it. And I went and lived with my grandparents, and then I lived a few other places, but that's a whole other story. I eventually found my father, and my father was with us until we were about 8. So I know that sounds all a little bit over the place. I'm not quite sure if that's making sense, but domestic violence stays with you forever. Now, I never was put myself in a position where there was domestic violence towards me as an adult, but I probably knew all the triggers. Is, you know, as soon as I feel that fear, and I think the saddest thing about when you are a girl and you watch your mother hit, or when you watch your brother hit, is, and of course I was hit in there as well, you have a lot of feelings where you untrust men naturally. And that's one of the saddest things, that I think it's very hard to actually ever really rid that feeling.
Yeah.
You can make it in a safe place in your heart, and you can do all the emotional work you need, but I don't know if men are ever really a safe place for you.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's like it's PTSD. It is. You know?
It is. It's just one of those things you're always on guard.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a very, very sad thing for any child to go through. But just because you went through it as a child, you don't need to welcome that into your life
That's
as an
right.
adult. But you do need to do the work.
So just tell, if we were to just back it up a little bit, explain to us when you say, you know, you were hit. I know I'm asking a lot.
That's
but
okay.
Could you give us like an example of how is your father like an alcoholic, or usually people equate alcoholism with violence? Is he, or he's just anger issues?
So my father did treat my mother unkindly, but my father left, and it was actually her boyfriends that were the worst.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's who put my brother's head through a wall for taking a strawberry. It wasn't my father. So my father left when I was 8, although he had also been unkind to my mother a few times, but my mother was an alcoholic. Now, that does not make any excuse to why people do what they do. I just think we really need to go and help the males. I know that I help women, but these men need support as well. I don't have anger towards all the men that were awful to us, because imagine what they have been through to have no coping skills, that they think violence is the way to run a household. And I suppose I've come to a point in my life where no one's really to blame. It's now a space of how do we help? We need to get in and we need to start helping young boys. We need to start helping young girls of, you know, what is the right sort of behaviour, what is the wrong sort of behaviour, how to have boundaries. And, you know, because my poor mum was an alcoholic, and I'm sure she has a deep story there as well. You know, it's one of those things that eventually you just stop blaming everybody, and you come from a space of compassion and think, well, for you to think that was okay for us to go through that, for you to need to do that to my mother and us, imagine what you went through. It doesn't make it right, but what we can do is we can start to heal hearts by actually teaching girls and boys boundaries, and that to walk away if the emotions are too much, that violence is not the way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And from hearing what you said, your dad was, you know, was not nice to your mom, and then she continued her pattern of behavior of, you know, just going, that's just so sad, because to think that we accept what we think we deserve.
Yeah, it's really interesting that, because I actually knew when I left no one would ever hit me again.
Yeah, that's right.
I knew it. You know how you go from believing to knowing? I just knew. I just knew no one would ever put another hand on me in my life, and no one ever has. However, I have put up with more emotional abuse than others.
Mm.
You know, I noticed that we swap it out. So what we
Ah,
think is okay,
fascinating.
and we
Yep.
need to find that space and create boundaries of what's not okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I know
So,
what you mean. You're
and
thinking,
that's a
okay,
journey in itself.
it is. It's not, I fully appreciate that, because it's like, okay, I'm not, it's like he's not hitting me. So if he's just a little bit, more possessive or, demanding, that's okay, because the key thing is he hasn't, placed a finger on me. So that's okay. I fully appreciate where you're going with
That
that.
would be a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
That would be a deal breaker for me. You know, everyone has that deal breaker. If anyone ever touched me, they would never get another opportunity. But I know that I've put up with unkind behaviour and words because I didn't know any better. And I would like to say that when I reconnected with my father at 16, my father had completely forgotten everything, because he would often say, I can't believe that men treat women like this. And so this even goes to show that when men walk away and they never do that behaviour again, they justify in their head that it probably was the woman. Now, my father's passed over now, and I've never had the opportunity to talk to him about it. However, I loved my father dearly, because when I met him at 16, he was a fantastic rock for me. I had an incredibly unsettled, probably at least 8 to 10 years before I saw him again. And he had, I don't, had he changed or had he returned to who he was without the stress? We'll never know which one it was. But
Mm.
he was from a generation that, I would have never had the courage to bring that up with my father.
Yeah.
But before he died, he did say something very interesting to me. He did comment, he was very close, well, he appeared to be very close to his father, but he made a comment that made me think that his father had been violent towards him, his mother and brother. Now, I don't know if that's true,
Yep.
but it would make more sense in the pattern of everything. And when I started to go on the journey of learning, how to heal and step back into my power and what was appropriate, because Karen, yourself, coming from a family where there are no boundaries, you
Mm.
need to learn to put boundaries in,
Yes.
because you think you're an open slather. So my father actually ended up doing a mass amount for the community. He was an amazing man. He did lots of good things. So this is why I'm saying, we can't just be men bashers. We need to sit down and work out how to help them too.
Mm.
Now, is it true that they only do things in certain sorts of situations? I don't really know. Or did he learn? Did he grow up? I don't know what it was, but he did indicate, but I will never know whether that is true, because he passed away over 10 years ago now. But he
Mm.
did indicate that his father had been violent. And I've always wondered about that. So I never saw any violence from my grandfather.
Yep.
And he was a big part of my life for many years. So who knows? You don't know. You don't
Yeah.
know what. I always say you never know what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I have to agree with you, though, that we need to help them. And it's sad because naturally women, so it's accepted that we talk, we are very open with our emotions and all that.
Mm.
But for men, it's not. It's
No,
not.
and they are so tender.
Yeah. And they have
You know,
no
when you really
avenues.
get
They
to
don't
know
even
a
know
man,
how.
yeah, I don't. And the thing is, men want to make women happy. That is their biggest thing. They get up each day and they want to make you happy. And when they can't make you happy, they're full of emotions of, why am I not good enough? How can I make this work? And, look, there's lots of cycles, as you know, Karen. There's heaps of
Mm.
cycles that we run. And I suppose it's finding your cycle, and if it's not working, to find the cycle that is working. But just because you came from domestic violence doesn't mean you need to step back into it.
Yeah, exactly right. Because I must say that I've experienced women who keep going back to the same kind of men because
Well,
that's
they
what they
do,
think they
because
deserve.
it's a self-worth thing, isn't it? It's
That's right.
and it's what
Absolutely.
you know. If you don't know something to be different, unless there's an awareness where you actually think something's wrong. I mean, I knew from a very young age it was wrong. I
Yeah.
just knew it was wrong. That fear that runs through your body is just, it's overwhelming that you cannot do anything. You feel helpless. And I suppose you never talk about it as an adult for years because there's so much shame around it.
But you're a child though.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So how can you even be expected to protect yourself?
well, you can't protect your mother and you cannot protect your brother. And, you know, I have a lot of guilt from leaving my brother with my mother, who was an alcoholic, but I just had to save myself. And I said to him, the greatest thing you could do is leave. Now, I'm close to my mother now, so we don't, you know, a lot of healing's happened over the years, but it has definitely been a very rocky journey. And we know that substance abuse is to cover pain.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a difference from it's escapism at its highest form. You know, it's just because we have nothing to look forward to in this life, which is why we escape into another life.
Yeah.
Or,
And it's just such an awful spiral. And I've never understood why we can buy alcohol so freely. It's never made sense to me. I'm like, the greatest drug in the world does the most damage. And yet, you know, I never really understood that. But I suppose, it's even interesting talking about it, you know, just remembering things and thinking just about how sad that time in that life was for everybody, you know, for everybody.
So
and you know, there was too many in particular that my mother were with that were just awful people. And I just look back and think, I wonder if they got to the end of their life and reflected and had any awareness of their unkindness. I don't know.
My own experience with certain people like that, no, they don't. They take it right to the end, and they're still righteous.
I think there'd be a mixture of people. I think there would be some people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like your mom and your dad, they have changed. They're changed people. Some people.
Yeah. But my dad left when I was 8 or maybe 7. I can't actually remember, to be honest. But it really was, even though he was pushed to his limits and did unkind, it was actually another 2 people that were the worst.
Yeah.
That were really, really just despicable.
Yeah, like physical abuse.
Yeah, physical.
Yeah.
And you just look back and you just think, you know, my God, how could actually someone do that to a human being? And you think, well, what was done to you to think, for you to think that's okay?
Yeah.
This is what I mean. When we can go and step back into compassion, you can actually heal yourself. There's a lot of truth in that. You know, when you can truly forgive, you can truly move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And see that they were just another being that was confused, hurting, in a crazy space.
What would you say to someone who is not yet in that space of forgiveness? What would you say to them if, you know, anybody watching this video and you're thinking, you know what, I've gone through, I don't think that these people will change. I don't want to forgive them because it's my right not to forgive them. So what would you say in order for them to at least move forward a little bit?
I think that's really difficult because I think there's a whole process to it. I think I was very angry in my early 20s about a lot of things. And I think anger is actually a really healthy part of the growth. I think being angry and about understanding that that wasn't okay, because I suppose while you're accepting it, there's no anger because you think that's normal. So if you can drop into that space of anger for a while, in the end, the only person that you are hurting if you do not forgive is yourself. And what I really loved what you just said, Karen, was I met up with, you know, your abuser or who that person was that you were talking about, and they had no remorse. So they've gotten on with their life. So it's really about you. If you can truly forgive them, you are actually releasing yourself from those thoughts. Like, I don't think about those 2 men ever anymore because I just totally forgave them, knowing that they must have come from such trauma themselves that they just knew no better. They were just idiots. And I know once I let their energy go, I just became freer. So I suppose my advice is keep reading those books, keep reaching out until someone says that one thing that you can lean into and it just lands in your heart and you know that forgiveness is the way forward. And because the more you think about them, they are robbing your life again, and they've already robbed those years of, firstly, the abuse, then the years of you processing it, knowing that it was just so wrong. Then you're in anger. So really the great freedom you give yourself is like, I just forgive you because you knew no better. And to your best ability, just free them from your mind so
Yeah,
that
that's
you can
right.
move on. Because while they're taking that part, while they're renting that room in your mind, they're taking rent from someone else that could be giving you a good rent.
Exactly, exactly. And I like that. And what I appreciate most, Angie, is you saying, you know what, if you're going to feel the anger, feel it. Because there's so many
Yeah.
people who insist that, oh no, you have to. No, you don't. You don't.
No,
The
you
time will
don't.
come when you are
And the
ready.
time comes where now I don't even think I could feel anger towards those two men. I don't have any, like if I ran into them in this, and I actually did see one of them about 10 years ago, and I actually felt no anger. I actually felt true empathy for this person going, my God, your childhood must have been terrible for you to think that was okay. I mean, and this was a guy who threw a hairbrush in my head and thought it was okay. And my mother was going, I made the mistake. It doesn't matter what the story is, but it was pretty awful. And I had to go off to school with a bleeding head thinking I was okay. I mean, I don't think people realise the trauma kids are going through when they turn up to school, what's happened at home prior.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, my advice is just keep reading books, keep reaching out to people that you feel, that can create a safe place for you and that you can trust and be heard. I think, when I remember when someone really heard me for the first time, it validated that what they did was wrong. And, don't sweep it under the carpet, get it out there and just get on with your life, because that would be my biggest advice. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's
no, absolutely. Every little bit you came out of it. Look at how
yeah.
far you've taken yourself, how successful you are,
Yeah,
and I think the greatest takeaway today, viewers, if anything, is that if you can set it free, set it free.
absolutely. I
Just
love that,
setting it
Karen.
free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can set it, and the fact is you can set it free. You just need the right tools and strategies. And there is someone out there for you that has them. I promise you. I promise you, if you just keep asking. Not
Yeah.
everyone I spoke to was useful, but you know what? There's always some golden nugget in what they say, even if you know it's never to go back.
So
It
funny.
doesn't matter. Even if it's like, oh my golly gosh, that is never going to work for me. But, just keep trusting yourself, keep asking people, and eventually, as I said, someone will just say that golden nugget and it will land in your heart and you'll go, I am free. I really do understand they came from a bad space, and no one would treat someone like that if they were happy, would they?
Yeah, exactly.
Happy
Exactly.
people are not awful to people. I would say this, only hurt people hurt people.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's normal.
And beg your pardon?
It is human nature.
It's human nature, that's right. And I think the thing is, once I actually started to really find kind people, you almost feel uncomfortable in that space as well. You're like, oh, there's not much drama here.
Yeah,
um,
that's right.
and it's learning to get comfortable without drama.
That's right. That's right. So with that, we are going to wrap up the interview. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I know it must be difficult to take you back to that place. Thank you for being so brave. And of course, the last words being, just trust that you'll come. Just don't let them. It's just no good. You're giving them too much power. Just set it
Yep,
free.
my
Set
advice
it
is don't
free.
give them any more of your life.
That's
And
it.
I recognize that's easier said than done. However, make the choice, find the people that can give you the tools and strategies, and keep moving forward, because there is that space out for you where you will be free. 100%.
That's right. That's right. Living well is the best revenge. If you're ever thinking of revenge, live well. It's the best.
Live well. That's it. Live with that, out that. I love that, Karen. That's a goodie.
All right. So I will see you next week again. Don't know if I've got anyone on, but could be just me. So we'll see. All right. Bye.
Thanks, Karen. Bye now. Bye.
So we just stop this.